welcome to Dungeoneer. Today we're talking about magic items. The real reason Joe Manganiello's this jacked. If he unattuned his girdle of storm giant strength, he'd look like Matthew Lillard. Zoinks. Who are we kidding? Matthew Lillard's adorable. Hell, Joe would even be adorable in this body.
Seductive dancing.
With 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, Wizards of the Coast seem to say, hey DMs, I know you already spend hours and hours toiling away at stories and encounters and maps and NPCs, so with magic items, good thing nerds like homework, cause you're on your own, suckers! I love giving out magic items, and even more importantly, players love getting them. The less generic they are, the more special that player feels. Without much official content, it's a huge struggle to give fun and unique rewards to our players, and looking at the homebrew magic items on D&D Beyond makes my butt pucker. So today we're gonna make some magic items from Baldur's Gate, and then I'll talk about magic items that level up, and some general magic item tips, all of which I'm gonna upload to our Patreon, so come join us over there. But first, let's talk about magic items in general. On the subject of +1, 2, 3 weapons and armor, boring! Nobody feels special by saying, this is my +1 longsword. So I like to give them special names in my world. A +1 weapon might be a mastercrafted weapon, or a weapon made from a certain material, like, that's a Tori Hanzo sword, or this is made of Valerian steel. Or it could be some famous hero's sword, like the sword of Isildur. Of course, give them your own names, make up your own legendary materials, sword masters, and cursed ring bearers. Even better, have your players name them. It'll get them more invested in the game, and it'll give them an illusion of control before you crush them. Then have people in the world notice those items. For instance, I had a player whose paladin wielded his father's sword. He was a famous war hero, so on occasion, I would have someone say,
that's the sword of Thaddeus Obadiah Ramsbottom. Where'd you get it?
Now this simple +1 sword has history in the world and makes the player feel special, despite being a stinky old goat butt. But we're not here to talk about janky ass +1 swords. We want some weapons that really put the fear of Baal into the intel chest. And with Baldur's Gate 3 out there, we can pilfer it for ideas. So today, I'm gonna go with 10 magic items we can port into our games without completely breaking them. Which brings me to this very important point. Not everything that works in a video game will work at the table. Some would mean a lot of bookkeeping that is usually done by robots. Some abilities are way too powerful for a tabletop game, and some things are just batshit crazy. Also, it's a good idea whenever doing anything homebrew to warn your players that if I made a oopsie, I'm gonna have to nerf that shit. Sorry. Let's start with some basics, a little soupçon to whet the appetite. First item! The Amulet of Lost Voices. This necklace allows the wearer to cast the Speak with Dead spell once per long rest. Add spell, save, put in a pretty picture, et voila. Done. Now your players can ask dead people all about their sex lives once they've kicked the mortal coil. Let's move on to a ring. 2. Crusher's Ring. My hot NB devil girlfriend Karlak needs to get into combat, and she needs to get into combat now. And I like to do what she says for fear she'll crush my skull like a walnut. So I stack her up with movement items. The wearer of this ring gets +10 feet of movement. That means her dash is 80 feet. Also something the Astarians in your life would absolutely adore, darling. The Amulet of Misty Step. Misty Step is probably my favorite spell in the game, especially for a martial character. Bonus action teleport up to 60 feet, no opportunity attacks, and then stickity stab all day long. Hot diggity. I wish it worked in 5e the way it did in Baldur's Gate, where you could Misty Step and then cast a spell, but alas. Wondrous item, add Misty Step spell, graphics, boop. Moving on. Beastmaster's Chain. The Beastmaster's Chain lets you cast animal friendship so you can finally coax that owlbear into the house you built for it. Come on, little buddy. Come on. You get the idea. You can do this for any spell or ability in the game. Just try not to step on other players' toes. Like, if there's a fighter in your group, don't give the barbarian a codpiece that allows them to action surge. It'll make Lae'zel sad. You don't want a sad Lae'zel. That's why they're angry all the time. So you never have to see a toad cry. All right, let's get into some more advanced items from the game. These are gonna take a little finagling to work with 5e, but we can do it. I have faith in you. Spidersilk Armour. Okay, this is basically magical studded leather or possibly elven chain with massive shoulders and a +1 bonus to stealth checks. 5e tends to shy away from pluses and minuses like a sailor does condoms. So let's find something similar and in line with 5e design. Quick note, this is my go-to way to make sure an item isn't too powerful or completely freaking nutso. Talking to you people on the homebrew, find another item or spell that has a similar effect and just pilfer it for all its sweet, sweet juice. Cloak or Boots of Elvenkind seem like the obvious answer, and sometimes the obvious answer is the best way to go, so we're giving this sucker advantage on stealth checks. You'll notice it has a +1 to con save, but that seems like something they put in the video game on all armor, so we're gonna ditch it. Pew! Done. But while we're in the Underdark, let's take a look at Shadow of Menzoberranzan. Uncommon helmet, light armor, grants Shrouded in Shadow spell. This is basically a hat that just makes you invisible, like a beanie, or a bucket hat, or a Dallas Cowboys cap. Maybe we can add a little seasoning salt to that. Maybe you can only go invisible in a place with shadows. So if you're in a dungeon or a town at night, you're probably fine. But if someone casts a daylight spell, you boned. And maybe we give it one more little thing. Dark vision. Sure, why not? I mean, some days it seems like 99% of the ancestries in D&D already have dark vision, but occasionally someone like me plays a halfling. You want something extra for players who already have dark vision? Yeesh, elf! You're already effectively immortal, super dexterous, it's mega hard to use any charm spells on you, and you don't have to sleep. Though you do have to meditate, and nobody should be forced to spend that much time in quiet self-reflection. Vision of the Absolute. I learned about this item from some article and it is the coolest. A magic spear that a true soul used on an owlbear, but he got gutted and the owlbear didn't give a f***.
It's a splinter. I've gutted bigger threats than you with worse.
Then you have to take both pieces and combine them together, which would be so much fun to do in a game. Oh, spoiler alert. Nah, f*** it. If you haven't gotten this far in the game yet, that's on you! So in the game, this spear has a chance to blind the target and deals an additional 2d6 piercing to creatures that sport multiple sets of eyes. Like one of my favorite creatures ever, the Grey Render. Suck it, mutant rhino boy. But let's put some boundaries on this. If every time your player hits anyone with this spear, they have the chance of blinding them, you're gonna be rolling so many saves that your rolling arm might just give out. How about once a creature makes its save versus blindness, it's immune to the effect for 24 hours. That's all over 5e, perfect boundary on it. And in the description, we can note the thing about creatures with multiple sets of eyes, and also those same creatures have disadvantage on their blindness save. Now, there's two ways we can do this blindness ability. Make it work like the blindness spell, and they can do it against any new opponent, which is a potential of a lot of blindness being thrown around. My preference, have it work like Blinding Smite. It activates on a hit, so it's not wasted if they miss. It does extra damage, and you can only do it once per whatever rest you fancy. Once per short rest seems totally reasonable. So what should the save DC be? Let's keep it low for low-level adventurers, so like a con 12? They can repeat the saving throw at the end of their turn, and you can tie that saving throw to the spellcasting ability of the character if you want. Most of the time 5e doesn't, but I would argue, do it anyway. That way it grows with the character and doesn't become useless in 5 levels. Like my legs after walking upstairs, or like a stick of zebra stripe gum, or like buying that new Peloton bike. Peloton, when you absolutely need to spend $2,000 on a place to pile your clothes. 8. The Justiciar's Scimitar, a +2 scimitar. If you attack with advantage, your opponent must make a con check or be stunned until the end of your next turn. All right, hold the phone. There's no caveat with this one, so if you're comfortable with your fighter who has 3 attacks, flanking your ancient red dragon, and getting 3 chances to make it go turn after every turn, more power to you. But me, I don't even allow monks in my game. Stun locking motherfuckers. So what's something else we can do to make this feel good? It's a holy relic of Shar, and Shar is the goddess of night, but we just did blindness, which would really make sense. Darkness is too chaotic even for me. She's also the goddess of lust, so how about keeping with the stun concept, if you fail your save, you're racked with like every bit of trauma you've ever experienced, and you take a moment to quietly sob on the battlefield, giving people time to cut you to ribbons, and quite frankly, in that moment, it's a relief. Mechanics-wise, I love the way smites work. Having to imbue your weapon with a limited effect that's wasted if you miss is like sex. If you don't make contact, it's not going to be satisfying for anyone. So upon hitting your opponent, they have to make a con 14 saving throw, or they take 2d6 psychic damage and are stunned. Do they maybe repeat their save at the end of their turn, or just recover at the end of their turn? I'm going to go for recovering automatically. That gives 1 free round for all the heroes to wail on this poor villain with advantage, and if this is a boss fight, that could be enough to end it right there. Call
Call me silly, but I like my villains to make the heroes sweat.
But I also love seeing my players rejoice when something like this works on the big bad villain. It's more satisfying than telling someone you love them and hearing them say it back. I presume. Those are simple and should keep your players quite happy at low levels, but what if they want something a little more manganello? Gotta hope he doesn't beat me up. 9. The Blood of Lathander. This is an amazing item. I got it in Act 1, and Shadowheart's been smacking undead with it ever since. It allows you to cast Sunbeam once per long rest, and Sunbeam is a dope-ass spell. I use it all the time on Shadowheart when
you absolutely, positively got to kill every motherfucker in the room, except no substitute.
Then it has the Lathander's Blessing ability. Once per long rest, when your hit points are reduced to 0, you regain 2 to 12 hit points. Allies within 30 feet also regain 1 to 6 hit points. I love this mechanic. Pike's Plate of the Dawn Martyr in Critical Role Campaign 1 does something similar. I also gave it to one of the characters in my regular Wednesday night game because everyone kept trying to kill her and succeeding. Poor Willow. Everyone hates the healer. It's a fancy Death Ward spell attached to some healing, so it's 2d6 for yourself and 1d6 for any allies within 30 feet. Then there's Lathander's Light, where it sheds holy light in a 20-foot radius. In combat, fiends and undead standing in the light are blinded unless they succeed on a con save. If you're fighting a horde of skellies, that's a lot of saving throws. And they're just skeletons. Maybe just split it, like turn, destroy undead. At level 5, anything under CR 1/2 is automatically blinded. Level 8, CR1, 11th level, CR2, 14th, CR3, 17th, CR4. You're probably not going to have a horde of skeletons when you're under level 5 anyway, unless your DM is an absolute monster. 10. The Reaper's Embrace. Ketheric Thorm's armor. First off, I just want to take a moment to say, the f***, Larian? Thorm with an M? You had Thorn right there and you rolled a 1. You were so close to a great lyrical name and then jammed that M on the end. Now it just seems like everyone's saying it as if they had a mouthful of peanut butter. Ketheric Thorm. This armor is cool as hell. I had to give it to Shadowheart though, which just seems antithetical to her character, but hey, it's a video game. What you gonna do? Take the good armor when you get the good armor. In the game, it says all incoming damage is reduced by 2, but 5e doesn't do a lot of math like that, so let's just give it a +2 AC. Sure, resistance would be true damage reduction, but so is not getting hit. Maybe even giving it +2 to saving throws. It also gives the wearer the ability to not be moved or knocked prone, which was awesome until I tried to Dimension Door with Shadowheart, and she was like, that's a no from me, dog. It also gives you disadvantage on dex saves, so that's a little bit of a bummer, but if you give it to a strength character or a healer, you'll probably be fine. It has a cantrip that can cause people to become numbed, which is not a condition in 5e as of now. Maybe it will be in the next, oh, this totally isn't a new edition. I mean, it totally should be. It seems like a great low-level fear effect, so let's just add it to the description. This is a high-level magic item, so let's say all creatures within 10 feet must make a Wisdom 17 saving throw, or their movement speed is halved. The spellcaster has advantage on attack rolls against the affected entities. A condition is removed by the help action or when hit by the spellcaster. Since it's a cantrip, we can't make it too powerful. Like all cantrips, there should be a roller coaster of emotion where you start off going, oh, this is awesome, and then there's always that balls. I have to spend an action on that, but you don't. This is a bonus action, and a pretty cool one. How about we make it so any damage ends the effect? That seems disappointing enough to be a cantrip. Magic items that level up. It had never occurred to me before watching Campaign 1 of Critical Role that items could grow in power. It's so simple and so brilliant. Why didn't anyone come up with that before? What's that? It's in previous versions of the game going back to 1982? Shut up, Kevin! I really encourage backstories in my games, and inevitably, someone picks a starting item that belonged to a parent. And that's the sword they want to carry around for the whole game. Maybe it's a tie to their uncle who raised them, but died because the character didn't use their great power to stop a low-level thief who went on to kill... Wait. That's Spider-Man. You get what I mean? That item has a lot of sentimental value, but eventually they're like, I guess my choices are wield a sword that was given to me as a parent bled out in my arms and that I swore an oath on that I would wage war on the villains that betrayed her. Or this generic sword that actually damages the monsters we're fighting. Sorry, Mom. The way Matt Mercer did it tied into the characters. He did 3 levels of power that unlocked over the course of the game when they learned a big lesson or defeated one of their own inner demons, or in Percy's case, one of his outer demons. It would unlock the next level. Now, it's fun to surprise your players, so feel free to do it exactly how Matt did it. I have and it's great. But giving them clearly defined goals like defeat a greater demon to add plus 2d6 fire damage to your attacks, or reclaim a temple to your god for an extra smite, or whatever you want to come up with, will give that player a specific goal. They can drive the story, search for a temple, hunt down a demon, do some sit-ups. Seriously, those abs are ridiculous. General magic item tips. Despite thinking magic items should be rare and special, I can't resist giving them out. I was gonna say I love to give them out, but I can't resist giving them out. What's cooler at the end of a dungeon, sitting over a pile of magic item, like a kid over his Halloween candy, drooling as the wizard identifies everything. Oh, look at that kid. He's so happy. And in his favored terrain. I don't just do custom magic items for my players, but I will do some. But I'll also give a couple of generic rando magic items. I love giving the players something not meant for any one person just to see what they end up doing with it. We all know what you can do with a simple wheelbarrow and a Holocaust cloak.
Light him.
A lot of people get really nervous about this sort of thing, worrying it might break their game, but trust me, when the PC can only use their special ability for 6 seconds per day, and they have to sacrifice all other actions to do it, it's not gonna break anything. Not even in this action economy. And if you accidentally give them something that does break your game, just have a conversation with them outside of the game and say, yo, I totally honked that up. I'm gonna have to nerf that shiz. And I'm sure your players are cool enough to be like, you got it, dog. And if they do give you grief, just be like, I ain't asking your permission, homie. And they're like, you straight trippin'. And you can be like, I know you ain't said I be trippin'. And they're like, I said what I said. And you're like, I know you ain't said that to me. And then you both drop diss albums one track at a time that are all anyone can talk about on Twitter. A full-on rapper beef is a rite of passage every DM has to go through. That'll be timely in a month. And with that, you've got some great magic items for your campaign. And why make from scratch when someone else has done all the heavy lifting? Thanks, Larian. All these items will be available to our Patreon members, so you can plug them straight into your games. From all of me to all of you, thanks for watching. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe, why don't you? Ask questions, rebut my arguments below, or you can find us on the socials as Dungeoneer Show. I'd love to hear from you. Well, most of you know who you are. And until next time, check this out. Want more magic items for your games? Check out Vault of Magic from Kobold Press. It's 236 pages of magic items, rules, random tables, and fabled magic items. These are items that give you a small benefit without attuning, better benefits if you attune to them, and they grow with you as you increase in power. Check them out at koboldpress.com.